Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be drafting out this corset with a shoulder and an armhole. So let's dive into the video. To begin, I've gone ahead to draw out all the necessary body lines. This is our shoulder line, our bust point, the under bust, and the top length. That is the half length, because this is a gown, right? Okay, the half length. Okay, so the first thing we are going to go ahead to do is to take our basic neck line. Okay, so we are going to be using 3 by 3 inches. We are going to be using 3 by 3 inches, and then we are going to take the half of our shoulder measurement. Okay, we are going to divide our shoulder measurement by 2. Okay, and on that point we are going to come down by 1 inch for our shoulder slope. Right, so having gotten this, I'm just going to go ahead and connect our neckline. Okay, so this is what we have, and then on our armhole we are going to go ahead and connect to the shoulder slope. All right, so having gotten this, the next thing we're going to ahead to do is to get the armhole depth. Okay, so our armhole depth in this case is 8.2 when we have divided our bust by 6 and added 1.5 to it. Okay, so this is 8.2. I'm just going to draw a straight line across. Okay, so now this is our chest line. Right, so having gotten this, the next thing we are going to go ahead to do is to get our shoulder slope. Okay, so from here, whatever we have from here to here, I'm going to take that same measurement here so that we can connect our shoulder depth. Okay, so this is what we have. On this chest line here, we are going to divide our bust measurement by 4, and whatever we have, we are going to mark it out here. All right, so to get our armhole curve, we are going to divide whatever we have here by 2, and we are going to make a mark at the center. On that center, we are going to go in by 0.5 inch. Okay, so we are going to connect this point, and this point with our curve. Okay, so having gotten to this point, the next thing we are going to go ahead to do is to start drafting our corset. Okay, so to do that, we're going to divide our nipple to nipple measurement by 2. So whatever we have, we are going to input it here. Okay, so this is half of our nipple to nipple measurement. We are going to mark it on our bust point, our under bust, and the half length of this dress. Okay, so having gotten this, I'm just going to connect this with a straight line. All right, so having gotten this, the next thing we are going to do is to take our dart. So on the under bust, on the half length, we are going to go in and out of our dart line by 0.5 inch each. Okay, so from the bust point, we are going to come down by 1 inch. All right, then we are going to connect this dart to this point. Okay, so when we have gotten this, the next thing we are going to go ahead to do is to tighten up our under bust for the corset. Okay, so regardless of whatever line we already have here, from that our normal dart line that we already have, we are going to go out by 0.5 inch on both sides. right? So having gotten this, I'm just going to connect the straight line from there back to the that we already have. Okay, so I found out that this one isn't very good, so I'm just repeating it. Okay, so this is what we have. So I'm just going to connect with my curve to the 1 inch below the bust line. Okay, okay, so this is what we have. The next thing we are going to do is on the shoulder line, we are going to divide our shoulder measurement by 2. Okay, so we are going to divide our shoulder measurement by 2 from the tip of the neck to the tip of the shoulder. Okay, so whatever we have, we are going to make a mark there. So from there, we are going to take a line to meet our bust point. Okay, so this is what we have. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to determine how covered we want the chest to be for this corset. Okay, so to get that, I'm going to measure what I have here. This is 4 inches, and I'm also going to measure what I have here. Okay, so when I measured here, it's 4 inch is a little bit above this chest line, so I'm just going to mark that 4 inches. Okay, so you can decide to go a little higher or you can decide to go lower, depends on what you want. Okay, so I want it to be like this, so I'm leaving it at that 4 inch. Okay, so I'm going to measure what I have in between these two lines, and what I have is a little bit above 1.5, so I'm going to give the higher one, assuming you have 2 here or 1.5, you are going to give half to the part going inside, and you are going to give 1 to the part going outside, because this is the center front, right? Let me label this CF. Okay, so you're going to give the higher one when you divide whatever you have here. Okay, so that means I'm going to give 6/8 to the part going inside, and then 1 inch to the part going outside. Okay, so this is what I have. Let me just draw a straight line here so I know where I'm working from. Okay, so this is what we have. The next thing I'm going to go ahead to do is I'm going to add 0.2 inches on both sides. Okay, this is to tighten up the upper chest. Okay, so I'm going to add 0.2 inches. So from that 0.2 inches, I'm going to take it straight to the bust point. Okay, so this is what we have. And this is what we have for this side. Okay, so let me just extend this line so they meet each other. Okay, so this is what we have. So when I've gotten this, the next thing I'm going to do is to determine how deep I want the center of the chest to be. Okay, so I don't want this to be too deep. I decide to come in by 1 inch. Okay, you can decide to go down by 2, you can decide to go up, you can decide to leave it as straight as it is. So this is where you decide what to do. Okay, so on the center, I decide to come in by 1 inch. Okay, by half an inch, sorry, not 1 inch. So I'm just connecting these small dots here. Right, so when I've gotten this, the next thing I'm going to do is to connect this corset. Okay, I'm going to connect the tip of this line here to the tip of this line here, my curve. So after I've connected this part, I'm going to also go ahead to connect from this point to this point. Okay, so this is what we have for one side of this curl. Okay, so for the other side, what we are going to do now is, because this has a shoulder, what we are going to do is, from here we are going to go in by half of an inch. Okay, from this line here, from this mark here, we are going to go in by half of an inch. Okay, so let me just bring this in to meet that half of an inch. Then from that half of an inch, we are going to connect back to the shoulder line. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay, so this is what we have for this part. Okay, so after connecting it, the next thing we are going to do is, from here we are going to connect this one to the underbust. Okay, like this. I'm going to connect this. Okay, so this is what we have. All right, so having gotten this is now time to place our body measurement. Okay, so on our chest line, we are going to place our bust divided by 4, right? Our bust divided by 4, that is what we have here, right? Then whatever we have here, we are going to measure here. What we have here is 2 inches total. We are going to replace it here, that 2 inches. Okay, we are going to replace it here. All right, so on the underbust as well, we are going to divide our underbust by 4 as well, and whatever we have, mark it, then we measure what we have here. Okay, so whatever we have here, we are going to place that exact thing here. Okay, all right, we are going to place that exact thing here. Okay, so on our waist measurement as well, we are going to divide our waist measurement by 4, and whatever we have, we are going to measure what we have in between here. What we have is 1 inch. We are going to place it here. Okay, so we are going to connect all these points. All right, so notice we have not added any sewing allowance. Okay, we have not added any sewing allowance to all these measurements. So when we are cutting out on our actual fabric, we are going to go ahead and add the sewing allowance. Okay, so here I'm just making all these parts visible so we know exactly where we are going to be cutting out. All right, so all these parts is going out. All this part is going out. So here, let me just blend this line so it becomes visible. Okay, so this is what we have. So we are going to go ahead now and cut all this out. So this is what we have when we are through. I've gone ahead to draw out all the basic line that we need. This is the shoulder line, the bust line, the under bust, and the half length, just like we did for the front. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to mark out the width of the neck for the back. All right, it's going to be the same thing for the width of the neck for the front. So here we have 3 inches. Okay, and for the depth of the back, for now we are going to be using 1 inch. All right, this is not going to be a high neck, but for a basic neckline for the back, I'm just going to draft this. Okay, so we understand what is going on. All right, so the next thing we are going to do is our shoulder line. All right, our shoulder divided by 2, that is what we have here. Then also come down by 1 inch at the shoulder sleeve. Okay, so now we are going to connect. Okay, so this is what we have. The next thing we are going to do is to come down by our shoulder, our armhole depth. Okay, so this is what we have. At that point, I'm going to connect and we'll have our chest line. Okay, so this is our chest line. All right, so here I'm also going to connect this straight line to get our armhole line. Okay, so we are going to go ahead the exact same way to get our armhole curve. All right, we are going to divide here like we did before. For the front, we are going to divide here, make a mark at the center, go in by 1/2 of an inch. Okay, so then on the chest line we are going to divide our bust measurement by 4, and this is what we have. Okay, so when we have gotten this, we are going to go ahead and draw out our armhole curve. Okay, so this is what we have for our armhole curve. Okay, so we are going to go ahead now and divide our shoulder line here from the tip of the neck to the tip of the armhole. Okay, so here is what we have at the center. All right, so the next thing we are going to go ahead to do is the dart for the back. All right, I don't really need this dart, but let's do it for those who might need it. Okay, so here our nipple to nipple measurement by 2, and I'm marking it out on the chest line, on the bust line, on the under bust line, and also on the half length of this top. Okay, so this is what we have. So the next thing we are going to do is our dart, and to get our dart we are going to go in and out of our half length line by 0.5 inches. Okay, so when we have gotten this, we are going to go ahead and connect all the way up to the chest line. Okay, so this is what we have. We are almost done. So what I'm going to do now in my case is I don't need all this part, okay, because what I'm making is a show back. What I need is just one side of this back. I don't need this part. But if you want, you can go ahead and connect your neckline from this shoulder. Remember that this from here to here is the shoulder of the front. Okay, so this is the front, right? So from there to there is the shoulder, and whatever you are doing, you have to make sure that the both shoulder is equal. Okay, so you have to decide the kind of neckline you want. If you want a deep neckline, you can use your curve and connect this to your chest line. Okay, let me just go ahead and connect this so we see what exactly I am talking about. Okay, so this could be your neckline for the back. Okay, this could be your neckline for the back, but for me, I am not going to be using that as my neckline, because as I said, I'm going to be using just one part of this back. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect from this shoulder to the tip of my dart. Okay, and my back is not going to be having any dart, so we have already taken out the dart, and I'm just going to connect to the tip of my dart like this. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be using for the back. Okay, so you can go ahead and customize the neckline anyhow you like, but make sure that the shoulder do not exceed this place. Make sure that the shoulder is not bigger than here, because this is what we have for the shoulder of the back. Okay, so let me just go ahead and make visible all the parts we will be using for this project. Okay, right. All right, so at this point I'm just going to go ahead and impute my body measurements. Okay, so for the bust we are going to divide by 4 as usual. This is what we have. Remember, we have not added any allowance for all this. Okay, so for the under bust as well, divide by 4, whatever we have, mark it out here, and then replace this dart here. Okay, so this is what we have for the dart. All right, so for the half length, which is the waist part as well, we are also going to do the exact same thing. All right, divide our waist measurement by 4, and whatever we have, we are going to replace our dart. Okay, so this is it. So for me, this is the part I'm going to be using. All right, because I'm going to be using just this part, I'm just going to connect like so. Okay, all right, so this is the only part I'll be needing. All right, so if you are going to be needing all the parts, go ahead and cut out everything we have here. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead now and cut out this. So for instance, this is the part you want to be using. Let me just cut this out. So for instance, this is the neck part you want to be using. This is what you are going to have. Okay, we have not added any sewing allowance or the zipper allowance, so you can leave it like this. When you are drafting on your actual fabric, you can then add your allowance. Okay, so for me, because this is what I'm going to be using, I'm going to go ahead now and cut out. So this is what I'll be using. This is my back and this is the front. Okay, this is the front and this is the back. Okay, so let me just label this, the back and the front. Okay, so this is what we'll have. All right, at this point, remember we have not added any sewing allowance, so when we are tracing this out on our actual fabric, we can then go ahead and add our stitching allowance.